This is a test. This station is conducting a test of the broadcasting system. This is only a test. The broadcasters of your area have developed this system to keep you informed. This is only a test.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome in, welcome in. Welcome to SoulSplit stream. Oh, that's so loud. Hold on. Sorry, everyone's eardrums. That can't be good. But hey, we're here. We did it. Back for another SoulSplit stream. Welcome on in. How's everyone doing? And there, how are you
OBS
today?
tried to hold you down. I'm good. OBS tried to hold us down today.
It still is. It's still going strong with being a hater and trying to stop us. We're too powerful. So hey, we're not gonna let it get to us. I do have to find out where my chat went, because I have no visible chat currently. And that can't be good. So I wanna get that back. That'd be really nice. But hey, how's everything going? Has there been any new exciting changes or updates to anything on your end this past week? I know you've been kind of having a busy work week, so don't really not putting any pressure on you by any means.
Pressure taken, but no. I think since we last streamed, it stayed the same. I just tried to breeze through the fights like I used to be able to and show you.
Yeah.
But then I realized we made it harder last time, and
we did.
I can't click through the first fight in 5 seconds.
Hey, maybe that's a good thing, right?
Maybe.
I think, I don't know, it's very cool. I think it is shaping into like now I feel like we can kind of see where everything's headed, and not that we couldn't before, but I feel like every time we work on this, it's like more and more feels more and more real. Like it feels more and more like a game each time, and that's a good thing, right?
I agree. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel as well.
Yeah, I know there's been a bunch of new assets that I've been trying to get out, at least. I know things are gonna kind of potentially slow down a little bit. But I plan for now. So I picked up some freelance client work yesterday. Got an email in my inbox asking me if I could hop onto a freelance tabletop illustration project. And I need money to live, unfortunately. So got to take on that for a little bit.
Re- reset the count. He's talking about capitalism.
I'm back at it again.
Here he goes. Honestly,
So
I need money to eat. We've heard it all before.
yeah. Hey, I know. I'll never stop. Who would I be
never
if
stop.
I stopped now?
Never stop eating. Never stop buying food.
Exactly.
Well,
So yeah, I want to. My plan for the next couple weeks, at least, though, is to keep doing things how I did today. I was surprisingly productive. Surprising for myself. Got a lot of stuff done today. Um, I was given two different assignments, so two different like uh map illustrations to design for this game. And I got pretty much all of the roughs for the first one done today, which usually doesn't go that fast. I woke up early, did like a little warm up stream in the morning, over on TikTok, where I was working on what I'm finishing up now. Um, Streamed for like an hour and a half over there earlier. And it was cool. And then hopped off and switched focus and went and just started working on that and got a good amount done. So I feeling good. So I think that's gonna be my plan for the next couple weeks is try and like maintain that workflow or that schedule of like warm up by doing something fun that I actually want to be working on, and then hop over to the stuff, the other stuff.
grind for a bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Grinding for coin.
Yeah, exactly. How's everyone doing though? Welcome to SoulSplit stream. If you're just getting here, we are Shadowvale Society. If this is your first time here, and we're working on our first video game together. We're making a card-based deck building dungeon crawler, and it's coming along.
It is.
Sarah, how are you feeling about things and just our kind of general where we're currently at? What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, pretty good. In summary, pretty good. I was thinking maybe we have this conversation off stream. Not because it's private, but just because it might not be that entertaining. But I was thinking a lot about timelines and what's between now and a release and what priorities look like. And I think I mentioned to you, I think it might be time to set up a limited company and then attach that to a Steam page as an example. Now that will cost $100, which we'll sort out, and then it can. Yeah, and then that way, anyway, what I was thinking is that way, anyone who's interested can go and say they're interested on that page, and kind of we've got a place to focus all the effort towards. Anyone,
definitely,
can get that, and then then we can start thinking about this demo, for the Steam Next Fest, which we said we'd kind of like to aim for.
Yeah.
And I was thinking if we go down this route, if we think that this is a good idea, we could maybe start planning like timings now.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a good idea. I think that's kind of kind of where we're at right now, right?
Yeah.
We have so many moving bits and pieces all happening at the same time. And I know I feel like there's there's no right or wrong way to do this when you like initially like set out to do it, right? It just kind of
Yeah.
happens how it happens, and you go with the flow. Um, so there's definitely yeah, I think that we're now exactly like you said, in that point in time where it's like, okay, well, we're up, up and running, we're moving, we know that, like, you know, we are working on this thing, and it's moving along. And now that's just kind of like the next step in like the evolution, or like in the planning for this. um yeah, I agree.
Is that not how you spell that? Fine.
I feel like auto correct and everything like that has absolutely ruined my ability to spell things on my own. I used to be good at it, and it was something that I
Well,
felt good about, but now I've I've become
m- m-
entirely dependent on like robots to tell me how to spell things.
my secret is I was never good at it.
Hey, I think that there's nothing wrong with that, you know, just owning it and being like, oh well, at least I've always been consistent. uh yeah. So what is at for today's kind of work session together, what is on your list of uh things you would like to tackle or try to get to today?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm gonna shelve this launch timing thing because otherwise I'm going to end up in an Excel spreadsheet for the whole stream. Which,
I mean, hey,
yeah,
if that's how you wanna, if that's how we want to spend it, and that's what makes sense, I have no problem with that. You know that I hope by now that these are very intentionally kind of left to be organic, and you know, just whatever works best, whatever makes the most sense at any given time. So yeah, if that's where you're at uh mentally, and you're like, okay, I this is what I can focus on, or what I want to focus on, cool, I don't care. Or like you said, if you're like, let's talk off stream just to, you know, get the bookkeeping and whatever, that kind of stuff, like we'll get that all sorted out, and then just update along the way with any exciting news or anything that kind of, you know,
Hmm.
comes comes along. You know, that's fine too. Doesn't matter to me though, personal.
yeah, I think I'm okay either way. Um, last time we streamed, I said I was going to reconfigure the dungeons. Do you know what that
Yeah.
means?
Do I know what that means?
Yeah. Do you know what I was planning?
Oh, are you are you asking me like your notes, what that means?
Yeah, because I got no idea.
So I know last time we had been looking at we had talked about, you know, we were just coming off of like you and I talking off stream about like, again, kind of what we were just talking about a few minutes ago, of like, okay, reassessing and configuring our timelines and stuff like that, and adjusting the not necessarily the scale or the scope, because I feel like both of those sound they don't quite convey the thought we were having, which was potentially adjusting our plan for launch, in that instead of releasing everything that we have kind of been kicking around and have had in mind, instead of releasing it all at once, instead switching to a different uh, kind of focus or strategy where um, we instead dial it back a little bit and release the game as like, okay, this is like, launch version. It includes X number of dungeons and cards
Hmm.
and all this stuff. And
Mm.
then uh at a later time releasing uh additional dungeons and cards and all sorts of cool content in a future update for the game. Um, I'm not sure if it was like specifically pertaining to that, of like, oh yeah, I'll reconfigure what we have currently to kind of, you know, adjust for that, or what exactly. I remember you saying that, but I don't
Okay.
remember the context.
Okay.
I'm trying to think what else, because we kind of narrowed it down. Like, okay, well, if we do that, here's the new plan for like the dungeons that we'll tackle. Um, in terms of like theming and all that cool stuff. Uh, but then what else? I'm trying to like retrace our steps and be like, what did we mean by that?
It's probably fine. If it's important, it'll come back up. It'll come back to bite us later if it's
Yeah,
important.
yeah, exactly. It'll find us one way or another.
Yeah.
Um, where is how's our audio sound right now? Is music too loud, too quiet? Can you even hear it? Um, I've been bouncing around between streaming on over here on Twitch and over on TikTok, and uh, things are very different between the two. So I'm trying to figure it out, trying to get everything sorted to where it, you know, makes sense and isn't absolutely it's like deafeningly loud for both platforms. But if you have any suggestions, or if it's too loud or anything like that, let us know. I can gladly take care of that and fix it.
If according to my ears, having a quick shuffle, it sounds pretty good. It sounds like the music is a tiny bit soft, but I might have just been listening at a soft bit. I could
Okay.
hear it, and your volume sounded good.
Okay. Yeah, I think
Um,
that in terms of just mic volume, nothing there really changes so much between the two, but definitely
mm.
the music is a bit a bit sketchy and unpredictable. Okay. Uh I kind of like it. So I'll might do it on its own. I want to add like some flame highlights, uh, highlights on the flames of this to make it pop a little bit. Um, Earlier this morning, on stream I was reworking this design a little bit just to, I don't know. I wasn't super happy with it. With the first pass that I did. I mean it was fine, and I think it could have worked, but I I wanted to redo it. It's gonna be annoying. Seemingly the answer is
Oh,
already.
yes, of course. Is the answer.
Yeah, why would it be anything but? So, okay. One thing I can do is flatten this. See, but that's annoying too, though. I don't know why. When you, for some reason, in this program, when you uh merge two vector layers, they become pixel layers instead. I don't want that.
That
That
sounds perfect.
that defeats the whole point of why we're even using this thing in the first place. Okay, wait. Because I also keep looking. It doesn't seem like anything's crazy choppy or anything. Um, Twitch is telling me the stream is unstable, but OBS
I,
says absolutely nothing is wrong and everything is good. And
I've
it doesn't.
occasionally got some, like, your voice sounds like you're having connection problems. Very occasionally. Maybe
Weird.
every 5 minutes or so. It's just gone a week, just for a second or two.
Interesting. Where did it happen? I don't know. Um, this is a me being dumb kind of question, but I know you will know the answer. Um, how what what does bitrate do, and how what affects that when it says like, oh, bitrate is too high? Um, I mean, in theory, I get like just by context clues like what that means, but like specifically, what does that mean? Like when streaming
Uh,
and stuff.
it's weirdly, it says I'm offline right now. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I absolutely can. And I can see you. I can see your screen share and everything.
So I'm not offline, but the one website I'm using is offline. Is that true? That is true. Crazy. All right, the internet's having problems. Um, Interesting. Yeah, so it thinks it's the yeah, it's basically how fast your internet is.
Mm.
I googled this, by the way. I was like, this sounds like I know the answer in my head, and I'm going to Google it and prove myself wrong. Apparently,
Hey, I like
apparently not.
it. I We like to fact check things here.
Yeah,
'Cause I don't
fact
know.
checking the debate live.
Yeah, exactly.
Too soon.
Man, I don't even know. I Do you think I watched that? Do you think I hate myself that much that I would put
Think
myself through
what?
that kind of physical and mental anguish? Like I don't know. If I think Morgan and I were talking about it yesterday. Like I don't know. If you don't know, if you live in America and you don't know like who you're voting for at this point, like by now, what is this debate going to do to change that?
Oh, yeah,
Like
honestly, yeah.
I don't know.
But that's also terrifying
It is
because
absolutely terrifying.
yeah, because that means yeah, you're telling a whole bunch of people who are voting for either side, I suppose. Don't even
That
bother
is
watching it. You
the
already know
real
the
thing.
answer.
Like it is, no matter what way you look at it, we're we're doomed either way. Uh, I don't know. Not a great time. And I mean, I think this might just be everywhere from uh the little little bit of world knowledge that I have, but you guys kind of have some not great things going on over there too, right?
Yeah, that's definitely true.
You're like that's one way to put it. Definitely different kinds of problems in a lot of ways, but
Yeah.
I mean, hey, who doesn't, right? I think it's just that'll always be a thing, uh, fortunately.
How many versions of the game am I running? Oh, only one. Okay, that's the correct. That's the correct amount of games to be running. Um.
Hey, do
Okay, I'm trying to work out what we want to start working on next. So we want all three dungeons, and we're pretty sure we know what our initial dungeons look like, right?
I think
So
so.
it's the werewolf dungeon,
Yep.
the vampire dungeon.
We had this
Discussion last time. Yeah, we did.
well no, that's not what I was gonna say. Um but we did do that, but then I think we uh yeah, in Notion we have it under world building. It's the top two or the top four under crypts. We have the Goblin Outpost, the Old Graveyard, which is skeletons and the necromancers. We have the Blood Manor, which is vampire and vampire lord, and then we have the Dark Forest, which is the werewolf and the elf. Those are currently our top four that we've moved up last week when we had that
Uh,
section.
What was the skeleton one again?
It is the Old Graveyard. It is skeletons and necromancer, and that introduces puncture as a new
Excellent.
mechanic. And then for uh the Blood Manor, it's introducing Bloodlust, and then Dark Forest introduces Regeneration.
Sweet.
What is this that you're working in right now?
This is Trello. Back in the day, this used to be a good planning tool. It's now been superseded by a million other planning tools. Because I can't edit things in Notion, I'm trying to get this straight in my mind.
Yeah, so can you also log in, or does it give you like some kind of error message? Have you tried logging in with Shadow Veil
I
on?
could log in.
Okay. We could do that then and just both be signed in. Unless it gives us some kind of like, hey, there's some kind of security issue.
Yeah, I'll
I'll
do that now. That's a good idea. Considering you switched to Notion because I preferred it, and now I'm switching away.
Yeah, now you're like, all right, now that we got that all set up, I'm onto something else.
Yeah,
I do really like it. I had downloaded it like, I don't know, maybe a year or two ago now, and for like my mentorship program, because at the time I was like looking into exactly that, like, oh, what are good, like, organizational tools and whatever. And I downloaded it and barely set it up and was like, cool, I'll come back to this later. And then I just never did, until you were like, have you heard of this? And I was like, no, it doesn't even sound familiar. Until I went to download it again and then realized I already had it downloaded, and I had already made an account, and I had already started to like set up stuff. Completely forgot all about it. But I'm in this time. I really like it. I like the customization of it. You can do literally like anything you want, and very nice. I like that. Yeah, I like how much kind of freedom and customization that they offer, and it's all incredibly easy to implement and add for whatever it is that you're looking to do.
Yeah, it is cool for that. I had to remove my account, so it'll just be fully sharing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's fine. And if for whatever reason, if this gives you issues or anything and you need to have me like add you back in, just let me know. Or you could add yourself back in. Either way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's because it doesn't like you using it with friends for free.
Yeah, exactly. Which is stupid, because who cares? Like, why let you make a free version?
I know.
And then like, I don't know, whatever. Not the biggest deal. Especially if we can just both be logged in at the same time, then that's pretty cool. And immediately alleviates that issue. It's like $10 a month too. I was looking into it the other day. I was like, I'm good. Like that. I mean, I guess again, like if you have money, sure, why not? You just have like, I mean, definitely if you're using it like for a big team-wide type thing, okay, then I could see it.
Yeah, the in my opinion, the more intelligent pricing model is 5 team members. What this does is it means that it becomes critical to your company even when you are a small company.
Right.
And then at the point in which you're like shuffling accounts or you're having problems because you're getting to like 6 or 7 people or whatever, your company is probably making or has enough money that it's like a non-decision. It's just like, oh yeah, we need to pay for that now. Done.
Right. exactly.
And it means like people like me and you would just use it for free, and then we won't think about it, and then ideally,
Yeah.
years or months later, we're just like, oh, of course we're going to pay.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it
Like
also means
if
you can charge more as well.
yeah, exactly.
That's how Slack does it, which is basically
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
basically Discord for
Yeah.
Discord for corpos.
Yeah. that is a good way to put it. I've definitely used Slack for a bunch of studios that I've worked at. That like the like wish popping notification noise has like just it is like a trauma response anytime I hear it now. Uh from the a very toxic studio that I worked at a few years back. Of like, oh god, am I getting yelled at for something I have no control over again, or what is happening? This sucks. I need to merge this, but I'm mad that it's being. Oh, and that doesn't even solve my problem anyway.
Oh, man, this was so much easier in Trello. For us.
Really?
Yeah, but Notion is a better tool.
You were you were the one that was all
I know,
hyped
I
up
know,
on it.
I know.
um. Oh
That is
no.
true.
Yeah, I have never I can say that I have never used Trello. I know I said that with using Notion too, and then it turns out I did,
Hmm.
but definitely not like it was one of those things where like I must have just downloaded it one day, set it up within like, a few minutes of having it, and then just completely forgot about it.
Yeah, for about its existence. Yeah,
Yeah. I do that a lot. Actually, why are you like this?
on this way.
Hey, that is fair, but this program is I won't let it slide for them because it's not my friend. Okay, what do I need to do? Like this. That's unfair. Oh wait. Could be onto something. Please turn on. Okay. So
Boss art. But kind of.
Oh, I could do this.
Oh yeah. Events list.
I'm so do it at a
Okay. I'm trying to get a list of things that we need for each dungeon.
That's a good idea.
Really, I was originally going to a list of things we need for each release. But considering there's so much between us and it being like internally finished,
Yeah.
I think that's the list to make right now and the list to
Yeah.
action upon. And then
I think
after
that's a
that,
good idea.
we can come up with a list for the demo, and the pre-demo, and the pre-launch, and the launch. We can come up with all those lists. That's fine.
Yeah,
But
that
for
sounds
right
good.
now, we want to overcome the hurdle of the game being like internally ready.
Right.
I think there's a lot of content. What I really don't love is making it all about content now, this early. Like, if the game's not fun now, more content isn't going to make it fun.
Sure.
And I'm not saying it's not fun, but I'm saying I'm not entirely certain that it is fun.
Yeah.
You don't really make content for the sake of it, type thing.
So I think one way we can, and I think we've maybe talked about this, and I could be entirely wrong here. I think that one surefire way to find out, like, for sure, if is actually fun, if we're actually like feeling it as best as possible, would be to just fully realize one dungeon. That way I think
Fun.
we like that could be like our immediate kind of goal on this, series of other goals, where we add absolutely everything to one dungeon. Like, get this first dungeon pretty much as if it were, as close to being the final version as possible. Like what we see when we actually want to be playing this game, when we play this game, what does that look like and what does it feel like? Meaning all of the animations, all of the art, absolutely everything that entails like one dungeon 100% finished. And obviously, that doesn't mean that we can't go back and revise things or change things or switch things up or whatever. But it's a good place to start, I think. And then kind of go from there. once we have one of them fully finished with, again, absolutely everything in it, all of the events, all of the again, like the animations, the card animation, the attack animations, the character animations, like absolutely everything, then kind of assess, like, okay, what still doesn't feel fun, what's not working, what is working, um what should we revise, what, what about this loop should be done differently, or whatever.
Y- Yep.
Because then I think doing it that way, instead of like, okay, we're gonna, work on this dungeon a little bit, but then we're gonna kind of build up a few all at the same time, um which also is like another, definitely like another viable strategy for sure. um but I think that really taking the time with one of them to figure out all of this stuff, like, okay, what is going to make this the best possible version, the best possible loop that it can be, and then you kind of create the formula for how we can replicate that in all of the other dungeons moving forward once we solve that.
Yep. Sounds good to me.
I'm uh also help if the program actually did. That'd be pretty cool. Okay, so let's try. um what is there anything specifically, like, at this point, that in terms of play and just like the general loop, that you're not uh entirely sold on, or that's not like uh doesn't feel exciting?
Um, Nothing in particular. I hesitate because the the only thing that really matters is it fun? And fun's quite a hard
Yeah,
thing to quantify and measure and understand and so forth.
yeah,
So
definitely.
just something. Games can be very fun and just feel a little bit janky around the edges. Games can be
Sure.
very polished and feel not fun at all. And it's hard to put your finger on which part of it you're enjoying and why and so forth. Um, so yeah, I'm yeah. There's I think there's an like executing of vision problem, which is like if me or you had the perfect memory recall and we could represent that on paper, on imagery, we could like create a video of how the game should look and play.
Right.
So to imagine that we executed perfectly what one or both of us have visioned in our mind, that still doesn't mean that it's going to be inherently fun.
Yeah. Yeah. That
It
makes
seems
sense.
really fun. It seems really fun in your head. I don't want to get all Blizzard on us. Blizzard you guys think you know what you want, but you don't. Was the
Yeah.
famous quote. That's not almost the you can't help what you want. It's more my you can't help
Right.
what you enjoy. I play many games that I wish I loved. Other people love them. I don't.
Yeah. Exactly.
They sound really cool and they look really cool, but they're not for me. Anyway, so there's nothing specific. Like, I'm like putting my finger on and saying this is what's not fun.
Right.
Yeah, we just got to feel really good about the core loop. We both got to be like, yeah, this is it. This is good.
I agree. I think the biggest things for me at this stage, sorry, I'm trying to figure out what even just happened here. Okay. Yeah, I think that figuring out like specifically what the events are going to be and how we're going to incorporate that into the dungeon loop specifically, and then whatever we can do to add in like the sense of the need to the need for repetition, I guess, within that core loop. um so I know that is like something we're both excited about incorporating and wanting to, add in all of the like farming elements in order to go and get the resources that you need to be able to craft the cards that you want. And I think how it is now, just because I know one thing we had spoke about was incorporating the like NPCs, like the shopkeepers and stuff like that. They would have those like, little dialogues of like, giving context to these types of things, like why you're doing this and why this is important, or what specifically you might need and where you can find it. I think that without that right now, it's fun to play. Just, I think for me, just to be like, wow, we made something, and look at this, like you can actually like walk around and do all of these exciting things and whatever. um so I'm getting excited by just that. um but I don't know that it's for the reason of uh like specifically being excited about just those main loops and that kind of thing. um that makes sense at all.
Yeah.
But I think that a lot of that will potentially come just by adding in those like other like key elements that, you know give the logic, the reasoning, and all of that. behind it. Like the why. Why are you doing this? Why is this the way that this game works? Why is this important to do? Um yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't, yeah, I'm not sure yeah, I think it's the core, it's the core loop that needs to be fun. The whys are, yeah, sprinkles on top compared to the core loop. You can play most games on like an endless mode and have quite a bit of fun.
Yeah,
That's not why you play them, and that's not the most fun way to play them. But at the moment,
that is true.
if you're in an endless version of our core loop, I'm just not sure you'd have much fun.
I think it's so maybe taking a step back and kind of reframing things for a moment. And I feel like this is going to be one of those like impossible questions, just for anyone to answer, really. But what, like taking a step back to consider and think about in games that we enjoy, just as players and consumers or whatever, what what is it that we find fun about, those specific things? Like, when you're playing these like dungeon crawler games or deck based, like deck building, card type games, what is it about them that, like you said, like maybe the why doesn't necessarily matter uh as much if the core like play loop isn't there? um and trying to approach it from like a very
Okay, I got,
subconscious level of like
I,
what is fun.
I,
What makes
I,
something fun?
yeah, I got a more active way of asking this question that isn't
Okay.
just like searching our internal thoughts for answers we're not sure we have. One second, let me just sort this wheel out on my chair. It rolled over something and got caught up in the wheel. I don't know if
Oh,
that
I
ever
hate
happens.
that. I do that all the time too.
Who left all this stuff on this floor? You know?
Exactly.
Okay, here's an active way to ask this question. Let's say we put 50 hours into this game so far. Okay, I'm not saying that's true or false, just loose numbers here.
Yeah.
It could be 10 times that. It's whatever. Say we spent 50 hours on this game so far. Only 5 of those have been dedicated towards the core loop
Yeah.
in its purest form. Okay, so we shouldn't be that attached to it.
Yeah.
I am quite attached to it, if I'm honest, but in theory, we shouldn't be that attached to it, right? It's a very small percentage of the whole thing.
Sure.
So, if we said we're going to get rid of it, if we said we're going to swap it, we're going to try some other core loops. Or to simplify that language, as a thought experiment, we're going to imagine that our combat system worked differently. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
If you took the game that we have right now, or the game that we've got planned, and you one for one swapped the combat system, just the mechanics, not the artwork, not the flavor around the edges, not the progression, none of that. You just swap the one for one combat system with Marvel Snap, I think the game would be better. I think it would be more fun. And I think that's not just true for Marvel Snap. If you took our combat system and you one for one replaced it with Magic, which is orders of magnitude more complicated and has years of iteration, so it's kind of an unfair comparison. It would be more fun. And yeah, I think that's what I find myself up against. But it's because I think we built something that you can kind of make fun by building this cool meta game around it and having your really cool art on top of it and having like the theming and the world. But I think you can make it fun. But we could just swap this combat for a different thing, and it would be fucking better.
I mean, I
Thought experiment. Like, you don't
yeah.
have to agree. I just you could, hopefully that's an active way of looking at it, right? Is like,
sure.
Do we feel like it would be more fun?
I mean, I think okay, so.
Oh, and I can go one further. Sorry, will it interrupt?
No,
will you remember what you're going to say? Okay, I can go one further, which is to not, because I'm not trying to shit on what we've got at all. I know that's how it came across. Okay, I never remember what the full title is, but for forward and card crawlers, maybe.
Yeah, card crawl adventure.
And card crawl adventure. For those 3 games, which we've talked about almost as much as Marvel Snap,
that is fair.
for me personally, if we put our combat system as a replace for their core card mechanics, it would make it more fun for me. So I'm saying if we're tearing them up, I think ours, for me, is more fun than those 3, which is why I struggle to play them a ton, even though I love their look and their feel.
Yeah. I mean, hey,
but ours is not as enjoyable for me as probably as Marvel Snap, Magic, and probably other card games that I play that aren't springing to mind right now.
I think so. Okay, for me, I think that okay, I do want to take a moment just to back up and not take back, but I think it's worth touching on something that I said or whatever, because I don't want you to think that I am like that I'm the one that's shitting on our game and our core game loop by being like, I don't think it's fun, because that's not I realize that is probably what it sounded like I said, or maybe is what I said, and I don't think that's not what I meant to say, because I do think it's really fun. I think so. Okay, trying to figure out how to formulate this thought as best as I can. For me, I think that it is okay. Let's jump forward a little bit and say that we we go all in with this strategy that we're currently at, or that we currently threw out there a few minutes ago, of hey, let's just 100% the first dungeon and go from there, and again, everything that encompasses.
Yes.
The biggest thing, I think, the more I'm thinking about it and like trying to specifically pinpoint, um, I think that a lot of the issues, not issues, but like a lot of the things that I'm like currently like, oh man, like it'll feel, I think it'll feel really good when I I finally get around to doing a lot of the things that are like on the
Bugging
checklist
you.
that, yeah, just like
Yep.
in terms of like, okay, like I think it will make a world of difference of like actually seeing the character opposing you instead of just a void and then just like the little, and this part is not like anything directed at you or how you've incorporated this, but like our temporary solve for this of, you know, off to like screen left, like, oh, you know, they enemy, like the enemy used shatter spike, or you know, like just
Mhm.
like verbal things. I think that um once we can, and once we get to the point of like incorporating like actual visual elements of like, oh, I am taking
Yep.
damage, and it feels like I'm taking damage, like it feels like I'm in this battle, and whatever, however we choose to do that. I know we've talked about a few things like, you know, if they cast something or use something that has a status modifier, your little profile picture, you know, changing to reflect that, or if there's like, you know, like an impact kind of like screen shake or whatever, even if it is just of like the little character profile thing, like when you take a hit, like you almost like recoil, like all of that kind of stuff, like that that will make, I to me, like I think all the difference in,
And
oh, this feels good because now like I'm casting something, I'm seeing that it's affecting the enemy instead of just like, okay, I cast this and then, you know, their HP drops or whatever. Um like it, being able to actually like see those things play
yeah.
out in
So,
real time
s-
will make a big difference.
so I agree that will make a big difference. I'm not saying it won't. Okay. I think over the course of you talking and me saying what I've got to say, I can better summarize my concern. Okay, which
Yeah.
isn't out and out bad. Okay, so
Mhm.
I think I once tweeted a response to a question, which I can't find it. I did have a quick look, which was along the lines of, which is funny because I've got about 12 tweets to my name. It was something along the lines of, the question was, what makes games fun? And
Mhm.
my answer was something along the lines of, it is an interesting decision and the prospect of future interesting decisions. Okay, something like that. Okay, which you know, it's very fluffy. It doesn't mean much, but I think I've got out JS Paint. Okay, I'm putting out the big guns. All
Heck
right.
yeah.
Okay, so in our game, which is at the top here. Okay, in our game, you have one when you're in combat, pure mechanics. We have all the artists in the world. We managed to clone you 100 times. And we have all the programs in the world. We managed to clone me 100 times. It's not down to resources. We can have it look and feel and whatever, however we want. But they're building mechanics, okay, where effectively the decision the player is making, all combat, if we have that, say the hand limit's 5, just for argument's sake, and you rarely have more than 5 cards. Actually, that's not true. But you could be in a world where you rarely have more than 5 cards. Effectively, the
Yeah.
entire gameplay loop of combat is you just press the number 1 to 5. If I attach each one of these to a card,
Yeah.
that's how you play combat. That is the combat in our game. Okay, it's 1 to 5 over and over again. Now, we're assuming that it will get more fun later when you've got friends, AI or humans, that are also pressing 1 to 5. Okay,
Mhm.
I think that's that's banking on, and that's kind of why we've fallen into this, or while I've fallen into this trap, is like, I want the game to be simple enough that you can play with anonymous. You can play with me, and you can play online without being on Discord. That's kind of my
Right.
goal. Is I can
Yeah.
play with a friend without having to be like comms through the wazoo. No, no, no! Don't weaken him now. Okay, go. Like
Yeah.
I don't want that intensity. I just
Yeah.
want to be able to casual. Oh yeah, I'll help you kill a few of these over, text message, and then jump on and help you kill a few of these.
Yeah.
So I
Exactly.
want that, and as a result, the gameplay's been boiled down to this 1 to 5 thing. How many cards are here? 6. I should say 1 to 6 then, just to keep things consistent. So, the interesting decision that you're making every single round is just a series of 1 to 6s. Okay, and you, someone watching this, or maybe you, someone's going to be thinking, "Oh yeah, well, it's a card game. That's your job. You choose the card you play. That's not fun." However, if we go down into either of the card games I was talking about, in Snap, which is the better of the two examples, you're not just choosing 1 to 6. You're also choosing
Like which
1 to 3.
lane? Yeah.
1 to
Exactly.
3. Yep. And then also, because card drawing is rare, but mana is a thing, you normally have a second or third 1 to 6 decision as well. But you're making all of these decisions at the same time.
Right.
Okay, so you've got 5 mana energy. You're making the decision of which combination of your 6 cards you're going to play and where you're going to play them. And suddenly the complexity behind your decision making is super high.
Yeah.
Okay, but in our game, even when you draw more cards, because you haven't drawn them yet, it's really every decision is just 1 to 6. The loop is just 1 to 6 over and over again. Whereas this is a lot more complicated. This is Snap in this scenario. So this is don't delete that. Okay. Oh my god. What? Who knew that we've iterated on MS Paint?
Hey, it's gotten us
This
this
is
far, right?
exactly. This is Crypt Crawlers. This is Snap.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the other end of the spectrum, the Beast is Magic, which is like the decision levels here are insane.
Crazy.
Like,
yeah.
okay, it starts out pretty chill. Then you've got to worry about your mana base. You worry about who you're attacking, which ones are
Yeah.
defending, which ones you're tapping. Suddenly it's not even like a 1 to 6, 1 to 6, 1 to 6. It's like round 3, and the decision options are effectively infinity.
Yes.
Like you any new player to Magic, 2 rounds in, they're like, oh yeah, I get this game. I see why this is fun. And when they're 5 rounds in, they're like, oh wow,
Oh, I think I actually get it now.
yeah, like this is big.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so this is my gripe. My gripe is that I think we may have hit I was hoping to hit a optimum point in the complexity fun curve where complexity is very bounded and your decisions feel really impactful and it's really fun. And instead, what I think I may have done, or what we may have done, I'm letting you share the blame.
Hey, I'm all for it. Yeah.
Is that we may have constricted it to a point where the decisions are too trivial. There's actually very little deciding what's going on. Like if I now tab back to the game, this is a good deck that I've built. Okay.
Yeah.
It's the opening hand. This is my decision. Okay. This is not an interesting choice. 3 and 1. I built the deck this way. Okay. In theory, it's on me. I'm gonna choose one. There we go. Right. It's quite clear to me which of these are good. and what I want to do to this enemy. And okay, I'm choosing another one. Fine. Yep. Okay. I'm kind of chaining these along so that I'm doing lots of. Okay, I'll draw some more cards and I'll end my turn. He used a short sword. Great. He's on 7. I'm on 8. So I chained together like 7 or 8 cards there. And it just meant that I did 1 more damage to him than a short sword.
Right.
And I didn't feel cool either. Like, I wasn't like, oh my god. I'm like, I've broken the game. In a lot of deck builders, one of the most satisfying things, one of the reasons that the meta game of a deck builder is fun, is that you reach a point where you think you might have broken the game. You reach a strength level where you're like, did I just win? Like, can I just infinitely chain everything now and beat every boss? And then
Yeah,
you come against a
exactly.
mechanic that's like, no. Let me just remind you, no. Slay the Spire has this, which I think is probably what our game at the moment would get compared to the most.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, I'm done rambling. But do you
No,
feel like you have a
this
better
is important.
explanation now of my fears?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. I think that absolutely helps. So what are some ways that we could kind of in our own way that it makes sense to what we like so much about what we currently have? What are some ways that we could incorporate or give the illusion of more, I don't want to say more complexity, because that might not be the exact takeaway, right? But feeling like there's more. How can we create that feeling or impact that there's your decisions have more weight
Yep.
to them and are more impactful per turn?
Yeah. I think that is the question we should be asking ourselves. So I think there's a few things here. So one of them is our cards, okay, and the way our cards work. At the moment, our cards have this thing where they have a certain amount of pips on top, and that's the whole card. Now, this has pros and cons.
Right.
This has a ton of pros and cons. One thing I quite like about it is I don't think other card games do this. I think that's quite cool. I think it's quite cool that ours is a card game, but you don't, once you're familiar, you don't read anything. That's not normal. In Magic, I played many evenings of Magic, and I'm like, give me that card. I need to read that. I read it 3 times. I'm like, I still don't understand this thing. Yeah, it's like, yeah, I'm a little bit dyslexic, but still, there you go. Take it back. I trust you. It's fine.
Exactly.
And this happens with Snap as well. Like, the card text can be 2 lines, and I'm still reading it. I'm still like, what does that does this? Fine. So anyway, this has pros and cons, and we could keep this. If we think of that as a staple of our game, and I don't love the fact that whenever I'm playing this game, I have to try and remind myself what these different colors do.
Right.
I don't love that, but we could fix that. That's
I was
a
gonna say
fixable
that
problem.
is definitely. I will
That's on
take
us.
the bulk of the responsibility on that. I definitely think that when it gets to a point of, okay, this one does bleed damage, instead of just being like a little like colored pip that has a number in it or whatever, actually having a design for each of these different afflictions to where it's like, oh yeah, it's a blood drop, like I know that this is bleed and this is what this is going to do. Oh, this is like the poison symbol, that's what this is going to do. Just like Pokemon or Magic, even with like colors of cards and stuff. Like, I think that will help alleviate a lot of that, of like, wait, what does this do again? What, I kind of get it, but I don't really remember everything because there's a lot going on. But whatever. I
Yeah.
am fairly positive and confident that once we circle back and like we start doing that uh part of our design, uh whatever, I do think that that will do a lot of the heavy lifting to help
Yes,
alleviate that.
I agree. So if we assume that we're keeping this pip system where cards are relatively simple on their own,
Hmm.
um, I can think of a few ways for us to increase the enjoyment of the loop.
Hmm.
So one thing we could do, and we spoke about this and we ruled it out. And what do you know? I'm bringing it back. One thing we could do is we could effectively copy Snap, but instead of having 3 different locations, we just regularly have 3 enemies.
Hmm.
That would just be like the standard amount of enemies. Now, if we're trying to encourage you fighting with your friends, this could feel very dungeon crawler, very
Yeah.
um, enjoyable. And then if you want it to feel like Snap and the same level of complexity, you basically do 2 things, which is make it so there's less card draw, because that's one of the things that works well with Snap is that you're making the full decision of your turn in your mind before you play it out, even though
Right.
you're only playing a couple of cards. And then you'd make it so every enemy has a thing, right? And put some quotes around a thing. So effectively, enemies would work like locations. So they
Right.
wouldn't it wouldn't be so it wouldn't be an exact parallel with Snap, but they just have a thing. You're fighting a goblin, and he just has a thing where um, one enemy is permanently has 1 shield, one enemy permanently has double damage, and the other enemy is any card that triggers on them twice. So you end up in this Snap scenario where some cards are just better against some enemies, and in every fight you don't know what effects the enemies are going to have on them. That's what makes Snap cool, right? Sometimes you get a set of locations and you're like, this is going to be so fun. Other
Yeah.
times you get a set of
I'm like,
locations and
oh
you're like,
damn it,
this is
like
this is
okay.
horrible. But when you win that game, it's probably more fun. Because you're like, ah,
Yeah,
yeah, okay.
exactly.
I played 1 card over the course of a whole game, but man, I did it. I got it done. You know, because all of the zones are like, if you play a card here, your enemy receives it, and you're like, oh, fuck,
Yeah.
don't want that.
Yeah.
That's one way I think you could um, make this what we've got now work. And this is sorry, and I should clarify with all of this actually that this is actually a relatively small job for us. Like
Yeah.
we're not really increasing the amount of art that we're doing. We're not really increasing the amount
Right.
of
We were already
mechanics
gonna
I'm
do
building.
that anyways. It's just
It's small,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
and however, the longer we leave it, the bigger a job it becomes,
Yeah.
and the harder it will be to like move things forward in a way that feels right, because we'd end up rebalancing some cards if we did this. We would end up going, this is
Sure.
too strong now. This is too weak now. Anyway, so that's one solution to this problem. Is multiple enemies. We swore we won't. Well, tough luck. We change our mind. And I think that's a very Snap. That's basically just we'll make it Snap like.
My one immediate kind of thought on that, and I haven't spent as much time as I would like to with Slay the Spire. Um
Oh yeah,
does it make it too close to what they're
it
doing?
does. It
'Cause
does.
I know
It,
that's kind of what they're doing.
it's it's extremely close to what they do. In fact, I basically just took away one of our only differences.
Yeah, I do think that that is a good idea. 'Cause I do think I had maybe suggested that at one point. I could be wrong about
I
that.
think so. No, I
Uh,
think so too. I think you suggested it. We discussed it,
Yeah.
We decided against it. And then what do you know? We changed
And
our
we're
mind.
back at it again,
We're
trying to figure out how to make it work. Um, which I think that, but I know that they Slay the Spire have that where, like, you're fighting pretty much three enemies at a time. I don't know if it's like that always, or if it's like you know how much variation there is. I'm not crazy familiar with it. Um,
I've played enough of it. Let's say 10 hours, okay, but that's more than enough to know how the game works,
yeah.
right? Yeah, you're facing groups. You pretty much always fighting three enemies unless it's a boss, and then there's only one. And the way I describe locations working with Snap and we would do with enemies isn't exactly the same with Slay the Spire, but it's effectively
Okay.
the same. You can see what the enemy is about to do to you, which heavily influences what cards you're playing. And you can see what an enemy is like affected by, which heavily influences which cards you play. It's basically what I'm saying is this is extremely Slay the Spire. Okay.
Yeah.
You should listen to. You should hear me out on suggestion 2 then.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm all ears.
Open mind. Okay.
Always.
You know it's a good one when I'm starting with open mind.
Okay, hear me out.
Yeah, hear me out. Oh god, here it comes. Right. So, would this be a good way? Yeah, this would be a good way to represent it. So I'm just gonna do it. Right. Right. I didn't start, but I said I had an alternative suggestion. So even though I don't love this, I'm gonna explain anyway.
Yeah, please do.
You got a hand of cards. We get rid of these pips. Okay. We've said because we can't remember the colors, they're useless anyway. Okay. For this example, I'm going to be using the old trusty dagger. Okay. You've got a dagger in your hand. Maybe you've got a couple of them. You click on the dagger or you select the dagger. Then you are presented. Every card in the game has a choice. All cards do two things. You can use them to do A or you can use them to do B. If it's a dagger, you can use it to throw or you can use it to stab. And for the sake of our game, that just has a different set of pips attached to it. Okay. So you build a deck of 12 cards, but all of those cards have two options.
Dang. That is
which
kind of cool.
Which actually means you're choosing to do 24 things.
Right.
And it means that when it means every time you play a card, you're actually also choosing the thing. And some cards will have a very good A and B.
Yeah.
Other cards will have a very good A, very good B, whatever. And we could play with that mechanic as we go forward. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so sometimes you'd come against an enemy where it's really bad with your main strategy. So I mean, I'm sure you get the idea.
Yeah. Dang, I think that is a very cool idea. Magic does something similar with certain cards where it's like, okay,
yes,
this can do a variety of things. How do you want to play it? Like, how do you cast this?
So that's kind of what gave me this thought. Is I was like, with the Magic decks that I enjoy,
yeah,
kind of all my cards do their regular card things, but the decks I build have this alternative thing where it's like I'm going to kill all my own guys to bring them all back from the graveyard for free to generate me some mana
Yeah.
to play this card that does enough damage for every enemy, every teammate, every creature that's died this turn, and I just killed my whole deck. So do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I like playing a deck that effectively has two sides, but it's not the main mechanic. But anyway,
Right.
so I thought this was a close slice to that, a close shot near that.
I like this. I think that this could for sure add in some of that like layer to make it more seemingly complex. Trying to think. So what if I don't know if I have the full thought. So okay, the one thing I was gonna throw out, and I think that this can be kind of tagged on to any of these things, or some variation of this. This is essentially a fraction of an idea, and I'm just gonna throw it at you, and we can figure it out together, or if it's anything at all. So thinking about like magic and how there's, you know, a bunch of different phases to a turn, and you
Yeah,
can do certain things on certain phases, and you have to, you know, like that becomes part of the strategy, is like planning when to
yeah,
deploy specific things. um not specifically that concept, but so okay, this is kind of a few kernels of something trying to all fight its way into one sound idea. um
sorry, I'm gonna interrupt you. I'm
Please.
gonna keep my headphones on so I can hear you.
Okay.
But if you, I'm gonna go and get a drink from downstairs. I can
Okay,
still
cool.
hear you. Yeah.
Sick. So I'll keep rambling in the meantime. Something something. I was gonna say, like, what if you I don't know. I don't want to add like faces or anything like that. I think that would be kind of redundant. We've seen it before. A lot of other games are already doing stuff like that. But trying to maybe incorporate that loosely in a way that it feels different, and trying to find a way to do it differently where it actually makes sense. But I think that so now this new idea that you've presented, of this hypothetical scenario where cards have multiple actions and multiple ways that you can play the same card, that will essentially, you know, give each item or each card in your library or in your deck or whatever like a dual use, which is really cool. I was thinking back when we had first started like laying things out, or you know, a couple minutes ago when you had started sketching a few different ideas in paint, setting up like, okay, this is kind of what the generic snap loop looks like, this is what our loop looks like, and what are the key differences, kind of thing. And what if, I don't know, so I'm trying to think like how this would work, and I don't have the full thing. What if weapon cards or weapons, spells, abilities, stuff like that, like actual like actions, what if those had the kind of dual purpose structure to them, but then I'm trying to like figure this out as I say it, and it's not really working. I was hoping I would like stumble into it. Essentially thinking like, okay, well, what if we did that for for our actions, for our like main action type cards, those could have the dual function to them, but then what if there was like, I don't want to add like a healing phase or like a passive action phase. Like I don't want to break it into phases like that. But what if, weapons and actions have dual functionality, but then uh anything that's like a passive type thing, whether it's like a healing potion or whatever else it might be, applying armor or something like that, anything like that only has its single solitary purpose. um is that any fun? Does that kind of take away from the dual nature of cards in general if we limit it to only weapons and actions and like active abilities or whatever, to give it a dual functionality like that, and then like potions and passive abilities only have like, it is what it is. It's a healing potion, it's a big pot, and it does 3 healing. um and there's no other way to play it other than, oh, I know what it is. It's what it is. It is what it says on the label, and you know what you know what you're getting, kind of. um Again, like trying to think of different ways to like subtly incorporate other like mechanics or like structuring that we know that we like. Again, add that, even if it is like a pseudo sense of additional complexity, where it's like, oh, we're not necessarily adding in phases or anything like that, but it's, certain things act slightly different than other things. Are you with me at all? Is this anything?
I think I'm with you. Yeah, I think I my gut feeling is that it's really, like, it could be really good. I think it's high risk, high reward. I think it could be really
Yeah.
good or really lame. Like you'd
Yeah,
either hate it or love it.
I
Like
agree.
it,
And
which
that's,
I like. I would rather something polarizing than something dull, right?
yes, I agree. See, I do feel the same way of the dual function thing, where like
Yeah,
there is a big part of me that's like, man, that is really cool. Like I don't know of, like, again, like, okay, other than some cards in Magic, or I'm sure other cards, other games have similar, you know, mechanics for certain cards, but not for all of them, or not for like the majority of them, where like that is like a key component. So I do like that. But that was also like one of the first, like, kind of like the knee jerk reaction that I had of like, man, I
yeah.
feel like people would either love it and be all about it, or they'd be like, okay, I'm done. Like this isn't for me. Like I don't like this, and immediately be out, without even really like giving it any kind of real chance or whatever. And that would be unfortunate. I mean, it might not be. Uh,
So
I mean,
the
maybe that is like a good thing. Like, oh yeah, we want that. If it's not for you,
pro-
it's not for you.
I mean, we're gonna get some of that. They always say like
Sure.
you can't please everyone.
Yeah.
So like know your target audience and shape it towards them, whatever. So what? So one thing you kept saying that definitely resonates with me is like I don't want phases, and I completely agree. Like the worst thing about Magic is this. I know it's a core part, but this like phase dance you do, where sometimes it just doesn't quite click, and you're like, that's
Yeah.
so annoying. My cards do exactly what I need them to do. I can string them together in my head exactly as I want, but because the phases aren't in the order that I need them to be, or
Yeah.
because I did something wrong in a certain phase, like, oh well, great, so I'm fucked. Like
Yeah.
it's so frustrating.
Yeah.
So what if we took the phase away from your suggestion, but we
Mhm.
still have exactly what you were saying, which was, so at the moment we've got this big blue gem, right? He's just hovering there, he's chilling. What if we had like a red mana, blue mana thing, right?
Mm.
Where red mana is effectively aggressive mana,
Yeah.
and blue mana is like defensive mana. And this would be like what a dagger might look like. So you can attack, it costs 1 red.
Oh, that could be
It
cool.
it does one thing, like you can see the pip,
Mm-hmm.
and it does 1 damage. But then if you block, it gives you 2 shields, and that costs a blue mana. And that's clearly like a good card, right? You're like, oh, this is just, I'm happy with this. But then instead, you can have some cards, and these cards are sometimes they're going to feel good, and sometimes they're going to feel bad. Which we're going to say this is a ring, as you can clearly see by the shield. That's what that circle is. It's a shield.
Yeah, of course. Everyone knows that.
And like you said, a more defensive card, just wouldn't have, might not have any red mana options. But then, of course, to balance it out and to make it worth having in your deck,
It would just have a high.
yeah, it might have like 5 in block. And every turn, you would just receive a blue and red mana. And you'd have to decide which of your cards are you going to cast which way. You'd go, right, I'm going to use these for my red mana, and I'm going to use these for my blue mana.
Would they
And
accumulate to where it's like, so if it's each turn you receive, say, 1 of each or whatever, would it be like, okay, I'm saving up in a way that, I'm saving up because I know I want to cast this 1 card in a defensive way or in an active way or whatever. So I'm saving up so I have enough to when you finally get that card, or you finally, strategize it the right way, then you can, like, play it in the way that you want to. Or would it just be like on a turn by turn basis, it kind of resets each time?
Yeah, I've kind of violently opposed the idea that we'll have mana. That, like, I mean, Snap and Hearthstone and Magic, they all do this thing where your first turn you get 1 mana, your second turn you get 2 mana, your third turn you get 3 mana. Like in Magic, you have to play the fucking cards, but in Hearthstone and Snap, it just grows.
Yeah.
And in doing so, it means that you build your deck around like this mana curve that just goes up and up, and you can't
Right.
have too many 6s, but you need quite a lot of 1s, and
Right.
you end up with a load of 3s. Those 3 games all have that, and you end up with this curve.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And it works. We can see it works by, three of the best card games ever made use the curve, and it works well.
Yeah. And it's
and I'm
just
kind of
up
hoping
to the player to know to balance
Yep.
it in a way that actually makes sense. Because, if you if you load your deck with just like all 6s or something like that, like, okay, well, you're going to be sitting there for the majority of the game, and it's not going to really work or whatever.
Yep.
Before you even have the possibility to cast something. But if you instead like
Yep.
balance it and make it, a little bit better rounded out, then it's going to be more successful.
Yeah, so
That
I've
makes
avoided
sense.
that. intentionally,
Yeah.
but it's not a hard addition for us to make. So my thought was, every turn you have one red mana to spend, one blue mana to spend, and they don't have
Okay.
to be called red and blue. They don't even have to be colored red and blue.
Yeah.
But that way you would get your healing phase, your defensive phase, your passive phase, without us having to split the turn into two phases.
Right.
So you'd look at your hand and go, right, these are really good reds and these are really good blues. This is a good red and blue, but it's not the best at either, so I'm going to keep it for now. I'm not going to play that, and instead I'm going to play this one and this one. Yeah. And maybe... Yeah, that would be how that would feel. And I was going to say, for cards like the Elvish Cloak, which currently give you an extra mana, effectively, we could still have that. You could still have it so you can gain additional red or blue mana by certain cards. So you can
Yeah, I think that'd be cool.
Combo them together.
Like, yeah, certain cards like have that ability. Oh, this grants you one additional red mana, and then, you know, a different type of card, this grants you like one additional blue mana or whatever. I think that could be cool.
Yeah, the hardest part about introducing this, well, what I think is the hardest part about introducing this mechanic is the communication. I mean that both
Right.
visually and like written word.
Yeah.
Communication around it so that it feels cool and fun and not like confusing and annoying.
Exactly.
Because you if you imagine that mechanic's just in this game right now, you'd need to be abundantly clear how to spend red and blue,
Right.
what the difference between red and blue is. I don't want it to let me in my turn because I haven't spent all my red or my blue. Yeah, it's like communicating that concept will be tricky.
That is rough. Yeah.
Could probably do it. Anyway, there's one really big advantage which makes me like this idea over the other suggestions, which is that if you have this, if every card has this blue track, these blue abilities, when or if you do play with people like teammates, blue cards might just automatically become better because you can probably target your teammates with them.
Yeah.
So if they're inherently defensive, you can probably healing self 3 is always going to be weaker than heal any teammate, including yourself 3. Right? So it means your buddy can just go full aggro.
Yeah.
And
then you just have a healer in the party. And I mean, I kind of do like that because it kind of adds like an RPG element to it, like to where you're essentially choosing your class. Of like, well, we have like, you know, our tank, we have our big heavy hitter, and then we have the healer in the party. Their deck is very specifically catered to healing. Dang, that. How do you feel about that? I think that kind of just made this definitely different than what we've had so far, but I kind of like that. I mean, obviously, like, it doesn't work in every scenario, right? Like, you're not gonna go... Man, I was gonna say, so you're not gonna go into like a solo campaign or whatever with your healer deck because, okay, well then, what really is it doing? But there are... So think of this, circling back to Magic, there's like a lot of like white cards, like plains cards, that do almost exactly that, to where like anytime you deal damage, you're healing. So it is very frustrating to play against because like no matter what you're doing, as long as they're doing any damage or like playing any cards, or obviously it's circumstantial, and you can build it a million different ways, I'm sure, but uh they're pretty much, or you, if you've built your deck that way, is pretty much like always healing in one way or another, um while still being able to deal damage. So it could be something like that, but I also do enjoy the thought of like, okay, well, it's a dungeon crawler and we already have like a lot of RPG elements kind of built into it, in like some ways, like, just like
Mm.
the resource farming and that kind of like main loop. I think that, so if we and this is going to sound crazy, this is just more so me trying to formulate this thought than suggesting anything at this point. But if we want to lean into like, okay, this is a game that you can play with your friends, and we encourage that, and you can build these decks in ways that you're essentially creating different classes to suit this playstyle. So like, if you want to like front load your deck with like a lot of these like, you know like passive healing type cards or defensive cards or something like that, and then that either your buddy or the like AI that you're going to be like equipping in your party offset that, the you then it works. Like, oh, I know that if I add this guy to my party and he's going to be playing with me, he's going to be my big hitter, like he's my tank, he's the one doing all the damage, and then I can play as like this more kind of like passive uh healer, and whatever, just like a different play style, or like a different play strategy altogether. um I think that could be fun. But then what does that mean? Like, okay, does that mean that we then have to incorporate or build in that, like, okay, well, now that this just went from, hey, I'm playing this solo and whatever, that, okay, even if you are playing it completely as like a one player game, then you still have like additional party members that are AI? Like, how
Well,
would you work that?
we had that. We had that theoretical upcoming problem already, right? I don't think this
Yeah,
intersects with that.
I know we had talked about it, but yeah.
Yeah, I think we can just defer that decision for now. The
Yeah.
how we probably should have started with this actually. Let's do this. Let's do this now. Do I stay in pain? Of course I stay in pain. Why? You can't improve on perfection,
Yeah,
Um,
did you see Rydog's comment? That
Yeah,
we need to add that to your like to the art command that we're using Microsoft Paint over here.
yeah. Snap, magic, Hearthstone. All the card games we both played that we could use as a reference here. Complexity.
What all did you have so far? I know
Snap,
Snap.
magic, and Hearthstone.
Okay. That's a good question.
That's fine. That's fine. What we'll do is we'll do current combat for us, and then we'll do dual mana combat. Okay. So these are these are the 5 things, 5 options. How would you number them? 1 being the best, the most fun, the best loop.
And wait, what is what do you mean? So we have some games, and then what is the current combat in terms of our current combat, and then
Yep.
I understand the theoretical dual mana combat. I don't know. I've never played Hearthstone. Which
that doesn't help.
It doesn't help. I know that it exists and that it's a Blizzard game. That's the extent of my knowledge.
Actually, we. What's the best? I used some mobile games as an example earlier. What's the best combat system from those examples?
I really like that one that I'm always mentioning and have so the franchise is Meteor Fall. And they have been like making a handful of games underneath the same universe, but the one that's called Crumit's Tale.
Yeah, I didn't include that one on purpose.
Yeah.
Because I actually think I probably will quite enjoy it. I just haven't played it.
That is entirely fair. I think that
So,
one of
whereas
these
the other one,
is kind of like I do like that one a lot. Snap
about
for
from
me,
the
like
other one?
I was
Sorry,
very
what?
into for a long time, and it was all I did. It was all I thought about, and then I stopped playing it one day. Not for any
Yeah.
specific reason. I just, you know, stopped playing it, and I have never opened it again. So I know that I really do enjoy it, and I really like it.
Sure.
But
Yeah. But sorry.
that's
But
just
what
like
I'm
my personal thing.
I'm trying to gauge the just the core loop, as in just the combat system.
Sure. Okay.
Because what I'm working out is like it's a non-trivial amount of effort for us to move to this dual mana system.
Yeah.
I think that's cool and fun. But if
I
we both
agree.
think our current combat system is 3 out of the 5, if we both think that, and we both think that the dual mana combat's going to move it 1, like if it's
Yeah.
not going to make it the best,
Then
or
yeah.
move
What's
a
the
couple
point?
places, then I'm
Right.
kind of like, meh, whatever. So, have you played the best one for me of the ones I listed earlier? Was Miracle Merchant.
Okay. I do like that one a lot.
That
It's
is the
fun.
best.
It's simple.
Okay, so we'll be doing some guesswork with ours, but I think it's quite easy to. Well, I think it's quite. It feels quite easy to in your head align how engaging you think it would be. So if one was the best, which one of those 5 is the best for you? For just the combat.
I feel like this is a hard question, specifically because for me all of those, like all of these games, including our own, serve a different purpose.
Oh,
In
definitely.
terms of like, just what makes it fun about that specific thing. So okay, if we use Miracle Merchant for an example, like I love that game. I think it's incredibly fun. It's super simple. The concept is it couldn't be easier. There's layers to it. Like the more you play, like you can figure out like all these crazy different like combinations of potions to get like higher gradings on the potions that you're crafting. But the core basic loop, the core gameplay is incredibly simple. You have 3 decks and you combine them combine 3 cards to make a potion. Uh, Incredibly fun, incredibly simple, very different than anything that we're close to. And I don't know, like how we could take elements from that is like, oh well, I think this works and this is fun because of, you know, oh wait, you have 3 different decks, each one has a color assigned to it, and it's not even that the decks work in different ways or that they have different abilities or anything like that. Like sure, maybe there's some kind of like deep lore that they had written for themselves, but like to play it, you don't know any of that. It's just, hey, this customer's walking up to you, you know that they like green and red, green being their favorite, red being their secondary favorite. Now craft a successful potion with
See,
those things.
I view it from, I'm viewing it from the exact opposite angle, which is we could easily say that the deck builder is now that you're building 3 decks, and one of them is, a sheath, one of them is a spell book, and one of them is a I don't know, a sack of objects. An enemy stands in front of you and you can see what he's weak to, and then you use the decks, which are weapons, spells, and objects, to take him out. And we'd have all our art on top of the cards, and they'd all be colored in a way that matches to the enemies. And that's the it's not combat, but we could just, in my opinion, everything you described is like the flavor on top.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, I feel like we could make any of these fit our vision of how it plays.
Because going back to the nonsense ramble I had when you got up to get a drink, my like, again, initial response, or like initial whatever that I was going to throw out was, well, what if we again, finding a different way to build complexity, but not out of like a difficulty sake, but to like add interest and fun to what we already have going. My initial thing was, well, what if we made it like a separate deck, essentially, for pretty much very similar logic to what we talked about with our dual mana thing, of like, there's passive and there's active, like there's your aggressive, like your attacks and like stuff like that, and then there's more like passive, healing, defensive, whatever. And what if that was broken up in a way like 2 decks or something like that? And then my like the voice on the back of my head was like, is that too much? Does that work to like add in like, oh, I have like multiple decks that I'm using for things or whatever? Does that get too close to Miracle Merchant? Does that take away from like the core like reasoning or functionality of what we have been working towards? So I kind of didn't throw it out there because I was like, I don't know, maybe that's just like whatever. Maybe that's not it. But
so how would you
I could be wrong also. If that's exciting or interesting, that it's like, oh yeah, we have different decks and they serve different functionality and whatever, then I'm not opposed to it.
So how would you rate these 5?
Okay.
I mean, none of the like flavor or the style on top, because
just for play loops.
Yeah, they're all going to use
for as much as I like Magic, and for as much Magic as I play, I'm putting it down towards the bottom, if not at the bottom, for exactly what we were talking about a minute ago, of like, there are times where just the way that like the phases work and whatever, And I know that this is like, you know, a thing that is kind of just built into Magic by design, that it is like, I think they like pride themselves on being like, oh, this is like this is the most complex card game that
Yeah,
exists.
you see, I think the opposite. I think they regret it immensely, but
Really?
they've got no choice. Like it
Yeah.
started off so simple.
Yeah.
There was an attack phase and a defense phase,
Yeah.
and then there was a pre-phase because they needed a pre-phase because they needed things to trigger before. Then there was
Yep.
a post-phase because they needed things to trigger after. And now you're in this thing where all the phases of Magic, if you've ever seen it, is insane.
It absolutely is. Like I do very much enjoy it. Like it is how I'm spending most of my time when I'm not when I'm not drawing or watching movies or something. Shit, even when I am watching movies, I have Arena open on my phone typically, or on my laptop or something, and I've been deep in it lately. Um
Yeah,
and
look, just look at this shit. It's fucking disgusting. So, look, a Magic turn consists of 5 phases, and you're like, okay, beginning, pre-combat, combat, post-combat, ending, and you're like, that sounds quite reasonable. You click into beginning phase, and it's like, right, there's the untap step. Now let's read the untap step. So these things have to happen in order. Insane. They've gone
yeah,
off the deep end. They've
it
lost.
absolutely has.
Yeah, make Magic great again. That's what I'm saying. So the yeah, and yeah. But anyway, sorry. Let's. I think so. I do think this is a useful exercise, even if you just rattle through them.
Yeah.
So you think Magic's near the bottom? Does that make it 4 or 5?
Let's start it at 5. Love it,
Sure.
but I think that, again, like it in terms of like enjoyability and like whatever, I think it adds a lot to play to make it more interesting, and it definitely is different than, you know, a lot of the other games. But it that doesn't necessarily mean that better. And I definitely think it is adding all of that complexity in there like they have further kind of pigeonholes it deeper and deeper into
Yeah.
being like a very niche
Yeah.
thing, that like, oh, if you do
Yeah.
it, like this is, you're committed to the bit, like you're lost in the sauce, you're deep in it, you understand like all of this stuff, but then also like has a very high like starting curve to like for new players, you know, um
hmm
which isn't great, but again, like it just is what it is. But
Yeah.
through just time and stuff, it they've built it up to be that way.
Okay.
But
So
yeah,
what about the
for
other?
those
What
reasons,
about
I
the other?
I would put it down at the bottom.
Sure. What about the other
Um,
spot?
man, Snap is 1 or 2 for me.
Cool.
I don't really know. Because I
Oh, yeah,
don't
logic
know.
from earlier. We can make
Yeah,
it more.
Snap makes sense at 1. I think Miracle Merchant is 2, probably. For my reasoning is pretty much the same for both of those placements, in that it's easy. Like I mean, in terms of simplicity, Miracle Merchant is number 1. But in terms of like enjoyability of like play loop, Snap Snap is easy. It's not crazy difficult to pick up by any means. You can pick up on it super quick, and just, it's one of those games that like once you start playing it, like, speaking for myself, but like it's so easy to just be like, yeah, fuck it, I'll do one more. I'll do one more. I'll do one more. Like, cuz the
Yep.
matches are fast, like it there's enough like intrigue and you know, kind of like strategy in terms of like deck building and how you like go about, you know, planning for these like hypothetical situations you could find yourself in, but then there
Yeah.
is still, like Magic and like any card game really, a lot of it is very dependent just on luck and hoping for the best, hoping that you draw the cards that you've, spent a lot of more time than you would ever want to admit to anybody. Uh,
Yeah.
you know, painstakingly building these decks and crafting them to be like, okay, in theory, this is
Yeah.
it. This is going to be a powerhouse deck, and then you just get bad luck and get like all the wrong cards in the wrong order. Uh, but that's also kind of part of the fun too, right? Because then you're like,
Yeah.
oh, now
Do
I
you
get to
think
go
that?
back.
Do you think the dual mana is above the current combat system we have then?
Ah, man, what do you think for those two? How would you rank these two specifically? Our current versus the dual.
Yeah. Yeah. I think. I actually think it's slightly below. I actually think it doesn't
Yeah.
actually. I think if we played it, we
I would
might feel
agree.
different. But I don't actually think it's solving the problem well enough. So my order is actually very different to yours.
Okay.
Actually, I suppose it's not. But I would swap. I would put Miracle Merchant at the bottom,
Okay.
and I think I would put Magic as second. Yeah, and then so really I'm only swapping those two, and then I would keep it like this.
Yeah.
So I think if we could, so Miracle Merchant actually has a whole bunch of things that I find problematic. So stylistically, vibes, whatever, it's fantastic. It's really good.
Yeah,
But
for
the
sure.
mechanics, I don't think are engaging enough for me. I think
That is so
like
that is one of the, not to interrupt, but that is like, I put it up there because I specifically for mobile games, it is
yeah,
nice to be able to just pick something up mindless, like almost in a way that like you know, uh you would play like Bubble Shooter or Bejeweled or something like that, where it's like, I know what I'm in for.
yeah,
Like, it's nothing crazy. This isn't like, anything out of the ordinary. I'm going into it wanting and looking for that specific, just, it's the end of the night. I want to do something, and here I am.
So I completely agree. I think you're bang on the money with that analysis. I think that the difference between these two is like Miracle Merchant is not anywhere near as engaging as Magic, and
Oh, yeah.
Magic is not anywhere near as laid back as Miracle Merchant. They both fit a completely different vibe,
Right.
and Snap manages to cultivate both of them at once.
Yes.
Snap managed to.
I
I'm
agree.
leaning in. I'm sweating. I'm thinking about there's 19 possible turns right now, and I'm going to think about all of them.
Yeah.
And
Right.
yeah, and yet also, I'm watching a film.
Right.
I've got 4 mana,
Yeah.
and I've got 2 twos in my hand. I'm flinging them.
Yeah.
Stick one there, one there.
I
Not
think
bothered. Not
that's
thinking about it. Not stressed.
exactly.
And that is why Snap is top dog.
Yeah.
So, and I think if we use that reasoning, I think that's why Duel stays at 4th, is because it doesn't it doesn't fix either of those problems. It makes
just
the game
adds
slightly
something.
slightly more try hard,
Yeah.
slightly
agree.
less casual, and maybe slightly more engaging, but
Mhm.
not enough to like the current system. At least you could chill out and play.
Yeah.
The
For
dual
sure.
system, you would not be able to chill out and play.
Yeah. I agree with that. Hmm. It is an interesting problem, and I feel like that's the big problem, right? Like, uh, how
So
so
I
like
think we
cracking
just
that thing of
Yes,
wanting
I
it.
think we just moved. We moved towards Snap.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
In a small iteration, because I think that's the. I think that's a few things. So less card draw. Maybe even none. Okay.
Interesting.
And then I think less cards played. Each turn's like 1 to 3 cards played. I really don't want to bite the bullet on this mana thing. And it's one of the reasons that Snap works so well. Is Snap culminates towards the end of the game because you suddenly have those big mana cards.
Right.
But mana works well in Hearthstone and Snap because your pieces land on the board, which means they don't immediately do the thing. Whereas if you had mana in our game, it'll just do more damage, and then the enemy will be dead.
Right.
Which, do you know what I mean? So there's like no conflict there.
Because then, I mean, I'm trying to find like ways around that or whatever, and Snap does that too in a way with certain cards where it's like almost like, okay, this plays face down, or plays in a way that it's on the board, it occupies the space, but then it's not going to be revealed to do what it actually is intended to do until the very end of the game or the end of the turn or something like that, to where then you can kind of like come in with those like surprise attack almost.
So if we ignored what we have right now and we fully lent into Snap, I have a number of problems with Snap, like a number of things I would like, oh, if I did it, I'd do it better, which is easy to say, harder to do, of course.
Yeah.
The number one is no co-op.
Yeah.
That's I've played against my friends, but it's like barely memorable compared to the hours drained into fighting no one.
Right.
we won't mention things like theme and progression and single player. I'll just put that under the banner of not PvP only. Okay. I'm saying I want single player progression. I want
Right. Yeah, I agree with that.
Oh, well, not PvP, blah blah blah. Yeah, so that's the other thing I'd improve about Snap. Now, the first one kind of touches on combat. The second one doesn't really. I think Snap's combat system is really, really good, and I'd be happy to like wholesale be inspired by it. But I think you can make Snap both faster. I think that there's what's it called? A balance to strike here. Look, by the cards not landing on the deck, you could make a game like Snap, but faster paced and more engaging and less less stressful, I want to say, or less. Do you know what I mean? I think you could strike it well. And that's kind of what I originally hoped for, but the only thing that's like missing between, so we have less card draw, we have less cards played, we add co-op, it's not pure PvP. The thing that's missing that turns our game from not feeling like Snap, if I was like very critical, if I was very honest, is we need every card in your deck is unique. This makes a huge difference to Snap feeling different every game, right?
Yeah, definitely.
You have a 12 card deck, you play for hours, and every game feels different. And the
Right.
second one is what I'm going to call the 3-location problem.
Okay.
Okay. Now, I think the reason that the 3-location works so well, so we're going to say that 3 locations a good thing, because I think it is. Delete these. But I don't want to steal. I don't want to do 3 locations.
Yeah, I think that is that is the one biggest thing to me, that it's like, okay, if you incorporate that, like, I think that is so inherently Snap that, like, if you do that immediately, it's just gonna, like, how
Yeah.
does anyone play it
Snap-
and not
it's a-
compare it to Snap? Like, it's essentially
and
the same.
it doesn't
game
fit
there.
for what we want to do either.
Exactly.
If we, oh, did I lose you? I'm back. If you had units that you were placing that were like dragons and wizards and so forth, you could place them into fantasy locations, and those fantasy and you could do a snap clone that way. And I'm completely cool with that. But that's not the game we want to make. We want to make it like a dungeon crawler. We want to make it so you feel like you're playing as a character, and that character has either moves or equipment or items that they can use, which means locations don't work, right?
Right.
So the advantage that 3-location problem gives us is that every game is completely unique. Every time you play a card, an interesting decision must be made. Some combinations weaken or strengthen cards. What other advantages? What other cool things does this have? Okay. This is really minor. Do I even mention this? Nah, that will come out on its own.
Wait, what is it?
Well, no, I was going to say that the world building / flavor during combat. I'll write it down so we don't forget. But basically, what I'm saying is you have like a tie to a location in your brain, so that when I say the location is nowhere, or like the shield tower or whatever it is, or basically some of the locations just strike such a memory in your mind that you don't need to read them anymore.
Right.
You see them and you're like, yeah, I know what this one is.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the Doctor Strange's temple or whatever it's called. I know what this does.
Yeah.
It's this guy's thing. Yeah, I know what that is. Yes, the game's completely unique. Every card you play is an interesting decision play. Some combination we can strengthen cards. World and flavor during combat. Yeah, there's another big one actually, which is can't. Oh, you can actually. I was going to say you can't pre-plan your deck for the locations you're going to get, but you sort of can because of these events that happen, right?
Right.
So that's given me some direction. So 3-location problem. It's been solved very well by Snap. I think that we solve it by splitting them. So I think that a dungeon should have 1 combat effect. Okay. So every fight that takes place in the old graveyard should do a thing. Like a flat thing.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Then I think every enemy should have 1 combat effect. So goblins just have a combat effect that they apply. Yeah, this is good. And then I want one that's even more unpredictable than the other 2. And this is the one that has to force you to make a decision, which that's the hard bit. The hard bit is when you play a card, an interesting decision must be made.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think
Without
that
having
is
multiple.
that is definitely a hard solve, because without adding in like card descriptions or specific card effects, then how do you do that exactly? Like how each
Yeah.
card has its own ability or whatever unique to
Yeah.
that card specifically.
Yeah, it's exactly that. The only way that each card gives you an extra interesting decision on top is you either have to have multiple targets, which can either be enemies or allies, or every card has multiple modes that it can play
Right.
into. Yeah, there's no other way we can do it.
Yeah.
It's multiple targets, multiple modes. Yeah. All right. I'm. I don't think I'm going to be on for much longer, but I want one more idea
Definitely.
for you to brace through. Okay.
I'm ready.
It's another hear me out. Hear me out.
Hit me.
Okay. So. Do this. Yeah. Grand. Right. So, to make the interesting decision, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
here's my pitch, and I promise you it's not the same as the one from earlier, but it's going to sound like. Okay. So,
Yeah.
a dungeon is a series of fights.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You go into the old graveyard. We're going to take you through, for the sake of this example, 5 battles.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to fight a skeleton, then you're going to fight a skeleton mage, then you're going to fight a skeleton archer, then you're going to fight another regular skeleton, and then you're going to fight the necromancer. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay.
Yep.
Everything before 5 can kind of change its order, but
Sure.
the boss is the necromancer. Okay.
Right.
Fine, no problem. That sounds reasonable. Until now, we've done this thing where every time you enter one of these, it's just a new combat. You're on full health. Everything's hunky dory. Yeah, you're happy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. To make this game to solve our problem, and also make this game feel like you're an adventurer that's about to enter a dungeon, I think that we ramp up the persistence between them. Okay. So your health sticks between them from 1 to 5.
Okay.
And I also think your card deck should stick between them. Okay.
Ooh.
And the reason that matters is I think every card should have 2 modes, but the default mode is its top thing. It doesn't have to be top and bottom, but for this example,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
top.
yeah.
Its
I'm with
default
you.
mode is its top thing, which for a dagger is stab. Stab does a blue thing, a yellow thing, and a pink thing. And you're like, cool, great. You go through the dungeon, you stab all the guys, everything's fine. You're living your best life, okay? But every card in your 12 card deck, every card has like an ultimate move, which for the dagger is to throw it. And if you throw it, you get 3 pink, but the card is gone for the rest of that dungeon. It's spent. It's been spent from not just that combat, but for all the combat going forward. So in theory, the way to win this dungeon is to get your 12 cards and to not use the ultimates on any of them until you get to the necromancer. Then you use all the ultimates, and you're like, yeah, easy fight, I win. But that's ridiculous because it's gonna get harder and harder until you end up spending some of your cards in advance.
Right.
That's my pitch for how this is the thematically makes it feel like you're calling for a dungeon, and then it fixes every time you play in a card, an interesting decision must be made. The interesting decision is meant to be, is it worth me hanging on to this card?
Right. Or do
In
I
the
burn
first
it?
room, probably. So, but eventually, you're going to get to a point where you're like, if I don't burn this now, I'm going to lose some health, and that will affect me in the fight against the necromancer. It's like a health trade-off thing, right?
Right.
What's the risk of me getting messed up enough? I need to. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, sorry, just one last thing. And then what I was going to say is, we can double down on this persistence by when you're between room 2 and 3, there's an event. And that event can either gain you health or lose you health, gain you cards that are like temporary, which could probably just be potions, right? That they're gone once you leave the dungeon, but it allows you to like replenish your cards that you've spent.
Right. I like that.
And then I also thought it could buff you for a certain number of turns, which means you're not rushing as much as you're considering, if I don't spend this card, how much longer am I going to be fighting for? Will I lose my buff? And if I lose my buff by the time I get to the boss, there was no point in me having the buff.
Right.
So I might as well throw the dagger to kill him quicker so I can go to the next fight and keep my buff and blah, blah, blah. And we just kind of pile these on top so that there's never an easy decision. Okay,
Right.
I've got the buff and I've got this, and yeah, if I do that and I could use the thing, yeah. What do you think?
I think that's cool. I do have a question. So,
Okay.
what you said, it has like a blue, a yellow, and a pink thing, and then the other thing, you get 3 pink things. What do those? What is that? What do those represent, or like how?
For the dagger, it could be anything, right? So I intentionally didn't give it much thought because we have daggers.
Sure.
But if we think of the more real stuff, Tome of Knowledge is 2 draw right now. And maybe Tome of Knowledge's ultimate is 4 draw.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like it's an effect.
I understand. So it's like blue is action 1, yellow's action 2, pink is the ultimate. Is that what you're thinking?
No. Sorry, these were meant to be the pips, and I probably should have just put 2 in.
I understand.
So that it was less confusing. I'm going to remove yellow because yellow's confusing here.
Okay.
There's no real reason for yellow. So the dagger does blue pink, and for argument's sake, blue is probably an extra action, and pink is 1 damage. That's what the dagger does at the moment, right? It's a blue and a pink. I can probably find one instead. There we go. So it should be blue and yellow. So let me get the fucking paintbrush out. Get some good colouring going. Right, there we go.
Beautiful.
So dagger does blue yellow. However, instead of doing blue yellow, I can do 3 yellow.
Okay.
Now 3 yellow might not even be strong enough for the comparison we're making right now. So I could even just make it 4 yellow. So it's 4 yellow. So that's really, really good, right? We know
Right.
that's really good. So every time you use the dagger, you're deciding,
Do I
don't use
it
the
this
ultimate,
way, or
don't
do
use
I
the ultimate, don't use the ultimate. Yeah, and then eventually you go, okay, fine, use the fucking ultimate.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. I like that. So essentially, each card has a move set of 2 different actions that it can take.
Yep.
And each one, whichever action you decide to take, will have a different outcome, and by proximity, a different set of consequences that goes along with that decision you make. I like that a lot,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah. This doesn't introduce another mana type, which is good.
Right.
Most cards, I think, probably have an obvious ultimate.
Sure.
We don't have to name them. You could get quite clever with some of them. So maybe the Tome of Knowledge is 2 draw, but its ultimate is 2 draw 1 action. In fact, that's one way we could solve this action and draw problem.
Mhm.
Is the moment you play a ton of fucking cards, we could have it so to get extra actions is often an ultimate, so that
Okay.
it makes it a higher tier move, right? Where you're like,
Right.
oh god, I'm going to die unless I use this ultimate.
Yeah.
I'll burn the card to get the extra action to combo this card to defeat the enemy to blah blah blah.
That's cool. I think that's pretty interesting. I like this a lot.
Right. You knew it was coming. Well, you should have known it was coming.
Yeah, no, I
One-
think this is cool.
1 to 5. We're calling this.
Yeah.
Yeah. The ultimates makes it sound very good. The
Yeah.
the dual, you called it a move set. Yeah. Move set cards.
So there's like
Where-
an
where-
A attack,
where-
a B attack, and an ultimate.
No,
Or-
no. Sorry, I'm
So
saying
it can just
there's
be an attack
a-
or an ultimate.
Yeah.
Yes, I like that better.
Okay. Yeah. That was my intention. So yeah,
Okay,
there's.
good.
Oh,
So
yeah.
attacks-
There's only
This is the attack that it does. Or if you choose to burn it for the ultimate, this is the secondary thing that it can do. Not secondary as in like, oh, it'll do both, but it either does A or it does B. How do you want to choose to use this? I like that a lot.
And for most cards we build, B will be a better version of A.
Oh, of course, yeah.
But to make things interesting, sometimes B could be something completely different.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you're like, this card has that thing where if you're in a real hard place, it will give you 10 shield.
Right.
It's not, but it's like I don't know. Anyway,
That's cool. I
where
like that a lot.
Where would you put it on 1 to 5?
Man. I feel like I'm being tested.
You're not, because
I don't know is the thing. I think in theory it sounds incredibly cool. And it I think solves a lot of the questions that we raised throughout this tonight of okay, how can we make it more interesting and more, not even necessarily more complex per se, but like the illusion of complexity. There's more of a heavier weight to the decisions that you're making. And that's big. That's something we were trying to figure out, like, okay, what's a different way that we can incorporate this, and something that's fun and feels right and feels like it fits within the world we're building. I think this does a one hell of a job of kind of checking off a bunch of those boxes. Yeah, it definitely also adds in like a lot more strategy element that like, yeah, you could play this very straightforward and, you know, not really get into like again like this meta with it with your deck building or whatever, and you could just kind of try and muscle your way through it if you wanted to, but then, you know, you would probably quickly find out like, okay, wait, I'm missing something. Let me go back and
I, I'm
reassess my
hoping
strategy and figure something else out.
I'm hoping as well that like should help us with the balance around replayability, because
Yeah.
if the dungeon's 5 enemies, as you while your deck is quite shit, you'll end up burning all your cards by the time
Right.
you get to here, and then you'll die quite quick, and
Hmm.
then eventually it will get better, and you'll be occasionally reaching 5, but not really having the power left to defeat him.
Right. Yeah.
And then when you're really good, you'll just fly through, and
Forward
yeah,
is
you'll have
kind of like that in a way where it's like, hey, I gotta like play this right and like hope for the best so that by the time you get to that final boss, it's like, I hope I have enough health left that you know, I can actually make this work out. Uh in a
yeah.
completely different way, but
No,
in
no, yeah,
a
that I
playability kind of.
and I think that's what we would need
Yeah,
to make it feel like a dungeon crawler. Because
I
right
agree.
now, the things aren't linked enough; they're just kind of there,
Right.
and you're just like, yeah, okay, fine. But like, you can't. At the moment, it feels silly that you can't just choose to fight the enemy. You have to
Right.
go to the dungeon. But if it was set up like this, I would think it would feel more. It would make more sense. You'd be like, yeah,
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah, I agree. Um and then so I just want to, this might be dumb or super obvious or whatever. I just want to make sure
Mm,
we're on the same wavelength though. Um so when you're done with the dungeon, whether you died or whether you've cleared it, you still have that deck, right? It's not like, oh,
yeah,
I've burned them and they're gone. They're like, it's not that cards are a single use, it's just a single use per run. Correct.
yeah, absolutely correct. But not a stupid question, because we're gonna have to communicate that
Right.
with them, and basically, like you create a word for it, right? So you say exhausted or
Yeah.
spent
Yeah,
or
exactly.
flipped, whatever. Anyway, and that's all fine. But then where do those cards go? They probably, yeah, where those cards go, where they sit. How do you make it clear? And then if what I said was true earlier, that you like pick up temporary use cards during a dungeon,
Yeah.
when you use those, you have to communicate the opposite thing, which is
It's a
you're
single
losing this at
use.
the end of,
Yeah,
yeah, you're
exactly.
losing this at the end of the dungeon no matter what. But when you use it now, it's deleted effectively. It's gone forever.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, yeah, that those are hard things to communicate, but I think that feels manageable to me. Like I feel like the concept isn't that complex.
No.
You,
Yeah,
you could just say the word exhausted, and then anytime
exactly.
you hover on it, it says you will you will regain this only once you have left the dungeon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, this will not be available until you've gone back to town, as an example.
Right.
Um,
Um I think that, and I know you said you gotta hop off, so just some things to think about. Uh,
mm,
but uh, for the, exactly like you said, the single use items or cards that an enemy can drop or whatever that you can use only while in the dungeon. Um, I think that a good place to start would be make a list. And again, this is not like right now. I'm talking like, you know, just over the next couple days, just going back and forth. But what all would that consist of in terms of items? Like, do we want to strictly limit it to healing or like status condition negators, to where it's like, um you know, oh,
mm,
you dropped this, you know, that you hit this enemy and they drop an antidote to cure your poison status, or they drop like a small potion or a big potion, or is it that kind of stuff exclusively? Because then I think we could handle it one way, versus if they drop like a single use card that is
Yeah, it's an
intended to
ice
be like,
dagger. It's gonna
right.
melt, but it's
Yeah.
the same as the dagger.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that you're right. It changes it changes everything. It changes the art. It changes the
Yeah.
vibe, and it changes how you communicate them as well. Like, potions feel single use,
Right.
so it's kind of fine. But an ice dagger doesn't. In a game like this, you don't necessarily look at that and you're like, oh, I immediately understand that I won't have this
Yeah.
once I hit down. Instead, you're like, oh, I got a new card.
Right. Yeah. And I think that there's, a visually a simple solution to that. Like, okay, the whole card changes design of whatever that single use is. So like, I don't know, just for any kind of something off the top of the head, you could have it be represented by like a cracked like plane of glass or something like that like the
Yeah.
art is displayed on. So it's like, oh, it's like a fragile thing, it's a limited thing. As soon as you use it, it breaks, it's gone. But then if we don't want to do weapons specifically and we just want to stay to the theming and ideas, that like, okay, maybe yeah, that's cool, that like stone card even that just is like all cracked. The glass one's cool too. Man,
Yeah.
I've been sleeping on this game. I haven't
Oh,
played it
it's so
yet,
good.
and I need to.
It's very, very good.
I've heard nothing but positive hype about it.
Well,
And
it's at the end of the month. It comes out on mobile. So
oh shit, okay,
we're
cool. Nice.
we're all doomed from a productivity point of view.
Yeah,
The-
sure.
Yeah, the glass card in Balatro it has a 1 in 4 chance to destroy when you use it. And honestly,
That is very
as
cool.
soon as you learn that piece of information, you never forget it. You're like, yeah, this
Yeah.
makes perfect sense. The card's made of glass. There's a chance I break it. No problem.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, and they got a bunch of these, but yeah, it's very cool.
Nice. Yeah, I think that that's a simple solution. I think how do we want to implement that
Yeah,
is like the big question.
I agree.
Do we want it just to be resources that we can use? Because then we could have it, these single use one and done items are equipped to like your tool belt or something like that, kind of like a hot bar sort of setup. Or is it like a card that's added to your hand, and then if you don't use it, you lose it, and when you do use it, it is a single use, like you've used it and now it's gone.
You went first earlier, so I'm happy to go first on the numbering.
Yeah.
I think with this system, I think it's above 3, which is my main.
I do too.
My main thing. Like, I'm just like, our current system was just kind of close. It was basically what was in my mind as a placeholder for the combat I wanted to fit the metagame that we'd like to build. Like, I want you to farm resources and build cards and blah blah blah, and all of that I was really excited about. And then the combat, I was like, it's fine, this will work. And now as you heard at the earlier part of the stream, I'm like, I'm scared it doesn't work that well. So I think it's better than 3, which is the really important thing. I think the alt system, if executed well, could make it sit in the second spot.
Yeah.
Like, I think it doesn't compare to Magic on a complexity level, but it could be better than it for that quick fun. And I think it's probably more engaging than Miracle Merchant, but probably not quite laid back on the catch. So I feel like it strikes the opposite balance than the dual system. Like, it's better on both fronts enough to make it attention to. I think with every dungeon having a combat effect, every enemy having a combat effect, temporary buffs being like given to you that run out after X turns, and the alt thing all together, then I'm thinking like I could see it being as fun as Snap, like on a battle to battle basis. I don't think it's there. I don't think it's like, oh, this is number one, we've cracked it. But I think it's not an insane
It's
thought
definitely,
experiment.
yeah, I agree with that. I think it's, I think I'm already more excited about this.
Sorry, one second.
Okay.
I hear a child crying.
Uh-oh. Yeah, I think that's cool though. I think that adds a lot to it. That's pretty fun. Yeah, if you're out there lurking, let me know. Let us know. What do you think? Does that sound cool? Does that sound like a fun new mechanic or like or gameplay that is interesting or more interesting? And hey, if you're catching this later on YouTube or something like that, let us know in the comments. We'd love to I'd love to hear your opinions and your thoughts and all that good stuff. I forgot that I forgot that we had the little art slideshow going on there on stream. So when I was looking at my other monitor, I was like, wait, what's happening? Why is that X in this all cool. I also, yeah, so if you don't know, if you are catching up late or missed the beginning of the stream or something like that, this bottom one down here I had done earlier this week and revised it this morning to look like this top one. I don't know. I think it's okay. I think it's better than the bottom. Is everything okay?
Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, my child fell out of bed, so I had to put her back into bed.
That's no good.
Normally they stay asleep. You just find them on the floor.
What are you doing down here? How did you get there? Yeah, that's no good. Yeah, I think this feels good. I excited about this this variation, this version of it. I think this is pretty cool. Yeah, I think this could be a lot of fun with these changes, and I really do like the dual functionality for cards. I think that's pretty cool. Having
So I was thinking
base action and then
I was thinking when you use it, it could be like, I mean, and then yeah, it could be like 5 damage. That's 2 actions. It's terribly done. I was thinking it could be like this. So if you're only playing a couple of cards, as you fling it, you just mostly fling it, click the top one, fling it, click the top one, and then occasionally you fling it and click the bottom one.
okay.
And it would tell you what it's going to do. It would say, oh, by the way, this is going to happen, which would also potentially fix our pip problem a bit. This is the bit I feel most unsure about, is how you make the decision. as a player. It's quite nice in Snap where you just drag it to where you want it.
Right.
And it's really not nice every time you play a card, go, which one do you want to do? Which one do you want to do? Which one do you do? Like, you're going to be
Right.
like, please stop asking me.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, we could do. Hmm. So you had. Man, I feel like there's a few ways you could go about it. So you
okay.
earlier had mentioned like, okay, we could build in like a 1 through 5 kind of thing where that, you know, correlates to what card in your hand you're playing, but it could be
Yep.
a 1 or 2 thing, and that relates to what action are you doing. It could be something like if you click it, like a single click is you know, action 1, or like a drag and drop is action 1. You like, I don't know how that would work though. I was gonna say, you know, if you just like drag it and drop it, okay, that's your default move. If you like long hold, like press and hold to click it, that like initiates the ultimate or something. I don't know. There could be like some kind of way to like just toggle it on and off, or like,
Yeah.
hey, that activate
The,
the big
yeah,
special move.
the toggle actually has me the most tempted is that you
Yeah.
have like a button here, and I don't know, it's an orb. And then when you, and we can use it for your mana as well, because we're saying you'll almost never have a second one of them.
Right.
And when you click it, it could just set on fire, and all
That's
your
cool.
cards would turn into their cooler version. And you'd go,
Yeah.
right, this one, which means when you get to the boss,
like
you're
that.
probably going to turn it on quite quick, right? You're going to
Right.
go, hello, Necromancer, here we go,
Yeah.
and like smash all the cool cards against him. And it also means when you're sat there pondering, like, can I do this? You'll turn it on, look at your cards for a minute, and go, yeah, I do want this on, but not
Yeah.
yet. I think that could work for. We could
like
try that
that.
first as like the default approach, and then if we come up with a better solution, then we'll use that instead.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to name it though. We're gonna have to name what this
I know, like
thing
the
is.
ultimate or
Ultimate
like,
mode.
yeah.
Ultimate mode is way too like Eastern for me. Like, that's like very anime, right? Ultimate
Yeah, it
stance.
absolutely is. Yeah. Yeah. No, we'll come up with an actual cool name for it. that that
We
makes
just
sense.
did. It's ultimate stance.
Exactly. That's it. Send it to print.
Send it.
Cool. Yeah, I like this a lot.
Excellent.
Nice. Well, I know you said you know gotta hop off, and
Yeah.
I think
Yeah. Should we
this
wrap it here?
feels like a pretty good place. So yeah, cool. I feel good about this. As always, I love doing these because I feel like we get a lot a lot of stuff refined and uh hammered out and resolved with each one of these. Um so that's always cool. Fighting with a bug that just crawled on. Yeah, I feel good. So let's wrap it up there. Hey, thank you for hanging out with us today for our SoulSplit stream.
Yeah. Thank you.
Again, if you I had mentioned when you stepped away, if you're catching this later and have any thoughts or comments or anything, let us know. If you're catching it on YouTube or on the subreddit or anything like that, let us know. Let us know if this sounds cool to you, if this sounds exciting. We'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions. So drop a comment below and let us know your thoughts. Cool. So that's it for us. We'll catch you next time.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.